Blessings, everyone. I hope that you are having a wonderful day. I just want to come on here and talk to you all really quick about something that the Lord has spoke to me about. So the Lord has sent me here to remind you all that you are exactly who God says that you are. And so when God brought me that word, I said, well, Lord, it's normally I am who I think I am, right? And so he said, no, daughter, I'm going to tell you exactly why I said what I said. Is exactly how the Lord brought it to me. So the first thing that the Lord brought me to was Proverbs 23:7, where it says, for as a man thinketh in his heart, that so is he. Now, the reason why the Lord emphasized that you are who he says that he is because our thoughts change. So in Proverbs 23:7, it reminds us that how whatever we believe in our heart, what we think about ourselves, about our circumstances, about our surroundings, right? Our life, what we perceive and what we think about it, then it is so. So if the Lord if you believe that you are blessed and highly favored, that you are the head and not the tail, it doesn't matter what your circumstances look like. It doesn't matter that when you look at your bank account, it's in the negative and it doesn't change your perspective. It doesn't change your mind or what you think about what God has said that you are. Okay. But if you have the mindset, if you have the mindset where you look at your bank account and you say, oh, I'm broke, I don't have enough, then that is so. But your mindset, your perspective about the thing and what you believe in your heart, as the scripture says, is so as you are. If that is what you believe, then that is what it is. But so the difference between God saying that you are who he says you are is that is stamped. No matter what your thoughts are, no matter what your circumstances say, no matter what it looks like, you are exactly who God says you are. And that does not change. Your mindset may change about who God says that you are because your circumstances may not align with what you see in front of you in the physical doesn't align with what God has spoken over your life, but that doesn't change. God has not changed his mind about who you said you are. You need to change your mind about who God said that you are. So this story that the Lord brought me to was from Peter. The story of Peter, of how Jesus called Peter away to follow him from being a fisherman to be a fisherman of men. And so Peter was dedicated to following Jesus, to defending him. And so Peter followed Jesus all the way up until the time that he was betrayed by Judas and he was crucified. And he swore to Jesus that he would always defend Jesus and be by his side until Jesus brought revelation to Peter that he would in fact deny Jesus 3 times before the rooster crowed the day that he would be crucified, that Jesus would be crucified. And so when it came to pass that, Peter had realized that he had actually done the very thing that Jesus told him he would do. See, Jesus told Peter something about himself that he didn't even know he was capable of. So Peter, filled with guilt and shame, because he had let down Jesus. He felt as if he had betrayed Jesus. And he had to watch Jesus go be crucified, and he didn't stand up for him or defend him as he promised that he would. He went away and went back on to his old life to become a fisherman. And so after Jesus rose from the grave and he said he went to go have breakfast with his disciples, he called for Peter and he questioned Peter and he said, do you love me? Jesus asked Peter this multiple times. And Peter said, yes, Lord, I do. I love you more than all these. And so after Peter answered Jesus, Jesus tells him, okay, so then I want you to go after my sheep and follow me. Go back and do the thing that I told you to do. I called you out of that, Peter. Why have you went back to your old way of living, to that old life? I've called you out of that. But so Peter was filled with so much guilt that he felt like all hope was lost, that he had failed his assignment, that he had let down Jesus, that there was all hope lost, and he felt like he wasn't worthy enough to even continue to walk in that role of leadership. So he turned away from his calling and left Jesus. But Jesus came back. his mercy. He came with his grace and his mercy. He came back looking for Peter. And so I want to this is a reminder for you today, that if God has called you out of something, if God has called you out, God has called you to do something, you know that God has spoken to you about something that he has placed you on this earth to do, a ministry. It may not be a ministry. It could be motherhood. It could be a marriage. It could be a career. It could be to open up a business. God has spoke to you about your finances, whatever that may be. And maybe you had an opportunity. You had an opportunity to steward that very thing that God has spoken over you, that he called you to do, and you dropped the ball. You made a mistake. You fell short, whatever it may be. And you feel like that all hope is lost and that, I blew it, so that must be it. God has not changed his mind about who he said that you are. So let this be some encouragement to you all. I hope that this blessed you, and I will see you all very shortly.